Hey everybody, what's going on? So somebody was asking me about the morning briefing. They were unsure what a lot of the stuff that I put in the briefing is kind of all about. And I realized that someone who's newer to investing probably hasn't encountered a lot of maybe the terms and things that we use in the briefing. So I thought I'd do a quick little explanation of the morning briefing itself, and hopefully you guys find this helpful. So first thing we want to do, obviously, is go to the morning briefing channel, which is just here under live sessions. And so this will bring up, all of the briefings are here. If you want to look back in time at briefings from the past, we can do that. So let's look at, I've brought this one up for Thursday here, right? And you can see here's the date right up at the very top, and the rough time that I post this. And the time's kind of important if you're looking down here at maybe what the markets are doing, because I almost always post this before 9 o'clock, during the pre-market. But at around 9 o'clock, we often get a change in what's going on in the markets, especially in the North American markets. So if you're looking this and it says, hey, the futures are up and the NASDAQ is strong. But when you look at this, after the market opens or something, you're going, what's he talking about? The market's like falling off a cliff today. That's because that's happened after I posted this. This is, once I put this in there, that's it. So this is where you can find the date and the time. Just double check that it's already been posted. I like to put a quote of the day up in here. Just something to get you thinking about the market or the way you interact with the market. Just a little brain candy there in the daily quote. Then we move into the markets overnight. So this is kind of we want to look at what's going on, what has happened overnight, what's going on right now. So by the time we post this, Asia has closed. And there's a lot of markets in Asia, so I kind of usually take an average of what's going on. Quite often, what we'll find is China may act differently than the rest of the Asian markets. Maybe China's up and everywhere else in Asia is down. You see that quite frequently, and the opposite of that. So if China is quite different than everything else, I'll usually mention China separately here. Europe is open. It's halfway through their day by the time this is posted. So we want to get an idea what's going on in Europe, because that does often set the tone, especially the DAX, the German index, sets the tone for what's going to happen at the North American Open. The U.S. index futures. So we take a look here, and we can see on Thursday, the futures were up. And up means, I use the term up to say, this is sort of an average move, or sort of a normal move that we see overnight in the futures. If I say up a lot, it means it's quite strong in the futures. If I say down, I'll sometimes say up or up a bit or down a bit, down slightly. Down slightly is, hardly moving at all, right? Or unchanged or near unchanged, virtually no change from yesterday. So we can see, on Thursday, I was saying that, the futures are up, the NASDAQ was strong. So it, on Thursday was outperforming the other indices by quite a bit. And the Russell was weak. I think the Russell actually was a little slightly red when I posted this. And we want to look at crude oil, because crude oil is such an important commodity in the markets. And the markets are fairly tightly correlated with crude oil. So it's always good to have a look at what crude is doing. And we can see on that day that crude was up a bit. Yields are also really important, especially lately with, or most of this year, I guess, actually, with all the talk of inflation and everything. A strong move in yields usually corresponds to a strong move in the market. So usually if yields are up strongly, you will see the NASDAQ down strongly, or the NASDAQ very weak, small caps weak. You may see, the S&P and the Dow may be up a little bit. They're less affected by yields than the NASDAQ and the Russell is. And conversely, if yields are going down, then it's quite likely that the NASDAQ is going to be quite strong, like we saw on Thursday. And yesterday as well, yields were down quite a bit yesterday morning, and the NASDAQ was up much stronger than the rest of the indices. And I also like to know what crypto is doing. Now, crypto's funny because there's no open and close, right? It's a 24-hour market, and your broker may start the day at a different time than mine. I use TradingView, and they reset the day at 8 p.m. Eastern. So when I say it's down, it's it's down starting at 8 p.m. Eastern yesterday. Next, we'll look at major global catalysts. You can see on Thursday there was this U.S.-China Economic Security Review Commission. I'm looking for things around the world that are likely to affect markets. It could be a major news event. I remember one of the big ones was when that Evergrande container ship got stuck in the Suez Canal. Things like that, ideally. A lot of these tend to be things that happen in the U.S. or China, because these are the two biggest economies in the world. But I really try not to focus on the U.S. here in this section. I'm really looking for global catalysts. Below that, we have the economic reports and events today. Now, you'll see some numbers here. You can see I say consensus forecast shown. So these are the estimates by analysts, right? And those numbers are right here. These numbers you see here. So we have the time, obviously, okay? And then what is the report? So this one is the Philly Fed Manufacturing Index. The expectation for this report is 24.2. And what is this report? Well, it's the level of diffusion index based on surveyed manufacturers in Philadelphia. That might not give you enough information. If you're not familiar with this report, that explanation may be meaningless. If you go to forexfactory.com, you will see all of this stuff listed. And I'll actually put a link. I'm going to do a text post along with this video. I'm going to put a link in that video so that you can go there, and if you actually look for the Philly Fed Manufacturing Index report and click on it there, you'll get a much longer, more in-depth explanation of what this report is and why it's important. If a report is going to be especially important, I will highlight it, I'll bold it. I'll highlight it in bolding. And that's usually reserved for important employment reports, retail sales, CPI, FOMC meeting, rate announcement, and the meeting minutes and that sort of thing. Because those events can really move markets. But everything you see listed here has the potential to move the markets, to get the indices moving one way or the other as the market reacts to the release of these reports. So it's good to know when these are coming out, especially if you're a day trader. But even for investors sometimes, something will happen and people will be asking, why did the market move so much at 9:30? Well, if the market suddenly moved at 9:30, it's probably because Fed member Williams was speaking at this thing. And when they're speaking at an event, they often release a transcript of their speech right at the time that they're scheduled to speak. And that can often move markets. So next one down is selected earnings releases. Now, during earnings season, I can't possibly put all of the earnings releases in here. Some days there are many, many hundreds of earnings releases. So I go through the list, and my priorities are, is it in Matthew's portfolio? So if it is, it's got a channel in the Discord, and it's very likely one that a lot of us are watching. Is it a big stock like Google or Facebook? Any of the FANGs, that sort of thing. Is it a company that we all know and have heard of? It's probably going to make it onto this list. So again, consensus estimates shown. So that's the analyst estimates, and you can see those right here. So that would be EPS, earnings per share, and the analysts are expecting to see $1.57 or $1.57 for the EPS, and they're expecting revenue of $1.2 billion. All right, so I've split this into two. We have after hours today, so that's after the market closes. That's when most earnings are released. But a lot of companies will release their earnings in the morning before the market opens. As you can see, Foot Locker was. So this is the pre-market tomorrow. So I'm looking at Thursday's list here. So Foot Locker released on Friday morning. So it gives you a little advanced warning that that's coming out. Now we look at selected analyst ratings changes. So, all these brokerages and big banks have analysts analyzing companies, as you probably know, and they will release, changes to the ratings and price targets and whatnot. That happens all day long. For this, obviously, I'm just looking at the ones that have come out in the morning. And again, just like I was with earnings, I'm focusing on stocks that we focus on in the Discord. So if there's something I know that people are talking about in the Discord, it's going to show up on this list if there's an analyst rating change, by, before 9 o'clock in the morning. Below that, we have interesting IPOs for today. Now, on Thursday, we had Sweet Green IPOing. So we have the symbol SG. Sweet Green is the name of the company. 13 million shares priced at $28. So this is $28 is the IPO price. They're releasing 13 million shares. If you want to know what that makes their market cap, you can just multiply 13 million times 28, and now you know the market cap of Sweet Green. And then I put a little description in here about Sweet Green, so you get a really brief description if you've never heard of them or whatever. I will also put in here lockups expiring. So when a company IPOs, their shares going to start trading in the market, but insiders generally aren't allowed to trade those shares for a certain amount of time. It varies, but it's typically around 3 months or so, sometimes 6 months. Sometimes there's no lockup at all, although that is rare. I wonder if I've got one in here. I'm just looking back to see if I have one where I mention a lockup expiring. No. Anyway, it would say so. Here's one. It'd just say, it'd give you the symbol SQSB square space lockup expires. So this is important to know if you're in this stock or thinking of trading this stock, because when the lockup expires, that frees up insiders to sell shares, and they usually have a lot of shares, right? So that can affect the price. We often see price come down sometimes, a day or two before the lockup, as retail traders or other investors are getting out of the stock because they think the insiders are going to be selling a lot and the stock's going to go down. But we do usually see some selling pressure on lockup day. So that also, provides opportunities, right? If there was selling pressure, maybe that gives you a buy the dip opportunity. Below that, we have my commentary. So, every morning I usually start out by talking about kind of what happened in the market yesterday. More about price action. What did the price action look like yesterday? If there were any extremely important events that kind of just popped up during the day, I probably mention that here as well, as a reason or explanation for the price action. And then I'm using that, and I'm analyzing the action in the pre-market, the economic events that are going on. Usually by this time, there's those 8:30 releases. I've had a quick opportunity to analyze those and come up with a thesis of how those might affect the market, and what I think that we could see in the market today. Now, it's as you know, really hard to predict markets. I'm not going to be 100% accurate here, and I often try to give a couple of different possibilities. But I'm often pretty close on things. Like this week, by Wednesday, it was kind of a no-brainer that this was just going to be a choppy week all week long. And I think I use that word choppy in pretty much every morning briefing this week. So it can just give you an idea. It's meant to give you an idea of things to watch out for. If it looks like there may be a setup for a buy the dip opportunity or something like that. And then finally, if there's something going on in the Discord, like a mentoring session, like on Thursday I was doing the session on VWAP, I'll usually put that in down there. And so that's it. That is the morning briefing. If hopefully that explains everything that's going on in there. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to DM me or ask me in one of the chats in the Ask a Mentor session or Ask a Mentor channel. More than happy to answer your questions, of course. So enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.